My wife said she wanted to take a break to think. I didn't know thinking required candlelit dinners with a man named Mark. So I found their reservation and paid the restaurant to play our wedding song as they sat down. She spilled her wine. I never thought I'd be the guy writing a story like this, but here I am. My name's Michael, a 45-year-old software engineer from Austin, Texas. My wife, Sarah, and I had been married for 15 years. We met in college, shared dreams, built a life together. We had 2 kids, a mortgage, and what I thought was a solid marriage. One evening, after dinner, Sarah sat me down. Her eyes avoided mine, and her hands trembled slightly. "Michael," she began, "I think we need to take a break. I need time to think." I was stunned. "A break? What does that mean?" I need space. Time to figure things out." I nodded slowly, trying to process her words. "Okay, if that's what you need." She moved out the next day, saying she was staying with a friend. I was left in our house, surrounded by memories and silence. A week passed. I was drowning in confusion and heartache. Then, one evening, I received a text from an unknown number. "Hey, Mike. Thought you should know. Sarah's been seeing someone named Mark. They're having dinner at Le Jardin tonight at 7. My heart pounded. I didn't recognize the number, but the message felt genuine. Le Jardin was the restaurant where Sarah and I had celebrated our anniversary every year. I called the restaurant, pretending to be Mark, and confirmed the reservation. It was true. I couldn't let this go. I needed to confront her, but I wanted her to feel the weight of her actions. I called Le Jardin again, this time as myself. I spoke to the manager, explaining that I wanted to surprise my wife with a special song during her dinner. I requested our wedding song, At Last, by Etta James. The manager agreed, and I offered a generous tip to ensure it happened. That evening, I dressed in a suit and headed to Le Jardin. I arrived early, taking a seat at the bar, hidden from view. At 7, Sarah walked in, smiling, arm in arm with a man I assumed was Mark. They were seated at a table near the center of the restaurant. As they perused the menu, the soft strains of At Last began to play. I watched as Sarah's smile faded, her eyes widening in shock. She looked around, searching for the source. I stood up and walked towards their table. "Enjoying your dinner?" I asked, my voice steady. Sarah's face turned pale. "Michael, what are you doing here? I thought you needed time to think." Didn't realize thinking involved candlelit dinners with Mark. Mark looked uncomfortable, shifting in his seat. Sarah stood up, knocking over her glass of wine, the red liquid spreading across the white tablecloth. "Michael, please, let's talk outside." I nodded, and we stepped out into the cool night air. Outside, Sarah tried to explain. She said she felt lost, that our marriage had become routine, that Mark was just a distraction. I listened, then spoke. "You could have talked to me. We could have worked through this together." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry. I made a mistake." I took a deep breath. "I think we need more than a break. We need to reevaluate everything." In the weeks that followed, Sarah and I separated officially. We co-parented our children, ensuring they felt loved and supported. I focused on healing, attending therapy, reconnecting with friends, and rediscovering hobbies I'd neglected. One day, I received a letter from Sarah. She apologized again, expressing regret and wishing me happiness. I smiled, folded the letter, and placed it in a drawer. Life had changed, but I was moving forward, stronger and wiser. Betrayal cuts deep, but it also reveals truths we might have ignored. I learned that communication is vital, that love requires effort, and that self-respect should never be compromised. To anyone facing similar pain, know that healing is possible. Stand tall, speak your truth, and never settle for less than you deserve. 2 months had passed. The dust was just starting to settle. I was getting into a new rhythm, morning jogs, weekend hikes, more time with my kids. But just when I thought the storm had passed, it circled back harder than before. It started with whispers. A buddy from work, Dan, pulled me aside one morning. "Hey man, weird question. Did you know Sarah's saying you cheated on her?" I blinked. "What?" Dan nodded, looking uncomfortable. "Yeah, she told her friends at the gym that you had a woman on the side. That's why she left." My chest felt like it was caving in. "That's a lie." "I figured," Dan said. "But it's going around." At first, I tried to ignore it, but it didn't stop. My daughter's piano teacher asked me jokingly if I was still a heartbreaker. Then one of my neighbors gave me the cold shoulder at the mailbox. I knew what was happening. Sarah was trying to rewrite the narrative, maybe out of guilt, Maybe to save face. Maybe Mark started asking questions. Whatever the reason, I wasn't going to let my name get dragged through the mud. I called Sarah. She answered on the third ring. Why are people saying I cheated on you? Silence. Sarah. I don't know, she said finally. Maybe someone assumed. I never stop, I snapped. You know how this started. You want to lie to yourself? Fine. But don't lie to everyone else. You cheated. Not me. I was home waiting for you to figure things out. She didn't answer. Fix it, I said. Then I hung up. Instead of fixing it, she doubled down. A few days later, I got a call from my son's school counselor. She said there'd been an incident. My son, 10 years old, had pushed another kid during lunch. He was defending you, the counselor said. The other boy said something about his mom leaving because his dad cheated. My heart sank. That night, I held my son close and told him the truth, at least what he could handle. Grown-ups make mistakes, I said. But I didn't lie. And I'll always be here for you. Then came the real curveball. A number I didn't recognize lit up my phone. I almost let it go to voicemail. But something told me to answer. Michael. Yeah, it's Mark. I froze. You've got nerve calling me. I need to talk to you. Can we meet? I laughed bitterly. What could you possibly have to say to me? I didn't know, he said. About you. About the kids. She told me you were separated for almost a year. That you lived separate lives. I didn't find out the truth until recently. And now, he paused, now she's doing it to me. We met at a local diner in East Austin. Mark looked rough. Sleepless eyes. 3-day stubble. He said Sarah had started taking breaks again. Late nights. Vague stories. Phone turned face down at dinner. I thought I was different, he said, shaking his head. But I guess I was just next. I didn't gloat. I wasn't happy. I felt empty. You're not the first, Mark, I said. And you won't be the last. She's chasing something that doesn't exist. He nodded. I'm sorry, man. I really am. I believed him. Soon after that meeting, I got an email from Sarah. A long one. She admitted to starting the cheating rumor. She said she was scared, ashamed, didn't want to be the bad guy. But now things with Mark were falling apart. People were pulling away. The lie was rotting everything from the inside. She asked if I'd talk to her. Not to get back together, but to help her fix what she broke. You always knew how to ground me, she wrote. I stared at the screen for a long time. We met at Zilker Park, where we used to take the kids. She wore sunglasses, but I could see the guilt in her body language. She handed me a letter, handwritten, and apologized. I'm not asking for anything. I just want to own what I did, she said. I know I hurt you. I read the letter later that night. It was raw, honest. Maybe for the first time in a long time, she was truly looking in the mirror. But I didn't know if I could ever forgive her. Not fully. And that's where I am now, at a crossroads. Sarah's trying to fix her reputation. Mark's out of the picture. The lies are unraveling. I've got the truth. I've got my kids. I've got peace, almost. But there's a part of me that wonders if helping her clean up her mess means betraying my own healing. And there's another part of me that thinks maybe, just maybe, helping her face it all is the last piece of closure I need. I haven't decided yet, but I will, because I've come too far not to. A week after our meeting in the park, I was doing spring cleaning. I pulled out an old coat from the back of the closet, one Sarah used to wear. I hadn't gone through that section since she left. I reached into the pocket to check for loose change or tissues, and instead pulled out a folded receipt. It was for a hotel in San Antonio, dated 4 months before she asked for a break. The room was for 2 adults. I stared at it, heart racing. I'd been so focused on Mark, so sure he was the only betrayal. But this was older. I texted her a photo of the receipt and asked one question. Was Mark the only one? No answer. 2 days later, she called me. Her voice was small. No, she said. Mark wasn't the first. Who? I asked. She hesitated. You wouldn't know him. His name's Eric. He was a vendor from work. It was a mistake. It only happened once. Why didn't you tell me? Because I hated myself after it happened. And when I met Mark, I convinced myself that was real. That maybe the first time didn't count if I found something real. I was silent. I'm sorry, she said again. I've been living in layers of lies. I hung up. 2 days later, a knock came at the door. It was a woman in a tailored navy suit. Are you Michael? Yeah. I'm a paralegal with Whitley and Barron. Your wife is being sued by her former employer. Her name's on vendor contracts that don't add up. Your name came up too. I blinked. What? Why? You co-signed a joint tax document last year for her work reimbursements. They're alleging fraud. I felt the room tilt. Turns out, Sarah had used joint accounts to hide unauthorized payments, travel reimbursements for work conferences that were actually getaways with Eric. I had unknowingly signed tax filings that tied me to those expenses. My lawyer told me I could be liable unless I distanced myself and proved I had no knowledge. The betrayal had gone deeper than I thought. It wasn't just emotional. It was financial, legal, criminal. I shifted into protection mode. Hired a forensic accountant. Dug through emails. Emails from her work trips, hotel bookings, even fake receipts. I built a file thick enough to drop with a thud. When I confronted Sarah, she didn't cry this time. She looked resigned. I never thought it would get this far, she whispered. You nearly dragged me down with you, I said. You didn't just cheat on me. You gambled with our futures. She nodded slowly. I know. I'm going to tell the truth. I'll protect you. But the worst part wasn't the court date. It was the kids. Our daughter, Lily, started withdrawing at school. Her grades dropped. She didn't want to talk to either of us. One night, I found a notebook she'd left on the kitchen counter. Inside was a drawing of our family, two halves split down the middle. On her side, we were all smiling. On Sarah's side, everyone had their backs turned. I sat on the kitchen floor and cried. I set up a meeting with the school counselor. Sarah came too. It was tense, cold. We talked through Lily's behavior, the family tension, and how to make things feel more stable. Afterward, Sarah asked to speak alone. Thank you, she said, for not tearing me apart in front of them. I don't deserve that kindness. You're right, I said. You don't. But they do. Just when I thought nothing else could surprise me, I ran into Eric. At the grocery store. He was in the wine aisle, smiling like nothing had happened. You must be Michael, he said, like we were old friends. You've got 10 seconds to get out of my sight, I said, jaw clenched. He raised his hands. Hey, it was a long time ago. She said you guys were on the rocks. You helped sink the ship, I said. Now walk. He did. But his smug face stuck in my brain all night. A letter came in the mail. Pending audit. Previous joint filing discrepancies. It wasn't over. Even though I'd hired a lawyer, I still had to sit for questions. Had to prove I hadn't known. That I wasn't involved in Sarah's manipulation. Every time I thought we were through the worst, another wave came crashing. But I didn't flinch this time. I was too far in now. Sarah finally confessed everything to the IRS and her employer. She was fired. Fined. Her reputation took a hit she might never recover from. She sent me one final email. I don't expect forgiveness. But I want you to know I'm sorry for everything, for Eric, for Mark, for dragging you into this. I'm going to fix what I can. You were the only thing real. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. So here I am. I survived betrayal, lies, lawsuits, and emotional landmines. I'm still standing. My kids are doing better. I've got a new job, new routines. Even started dating again. Nothing serious, but it feels good to be wanted for the right reasons. And Sarah? Last I heard, she moved to a smaller town in New Mexico, trying to start fresh. As for me, I haven't figured out how this story ends. But I know this. It's no longer her writing the chapters. It's me. Months passed. I was still dealing with the IRS mess, even though Sarah had owned up. They were slow to clear me. The stress hung around like a bad smell I couldn't get rid of. Then came the letter from Sarah's lawyer. She wanted to modify custody. She was suing for full weekends. After everything, she claimed I was emotionally unstable and turning the children against her. I lost it. I wasn't perfect. I'd yelled in front of the kids more than once. I drank too much a few nights. I made jabs at her when I thought they weren't listening. And now, she was using that against me. That's when I did something I'm not proud of. I had an old friend, Ben, who worked in security systems. I asked him for a favor. No questions. I planted a camera in the kid's backpack, just for her house. Just to know what was really going on. What I saw broke me. Sarah was falling apart. She was drinking, leaving the kids with strangers, screaming into the phone. One night, she forgot to pick them up from after-school care. The footage caught my daughter crying in the dark lobby, alone. I downloaded everything. I sent it to my lawyer. The court hearing was brutal. Sarah's lawyer painted me as bitter and vindictive. But then my lawyer dropped the footage. Silence. The judge watched it. All of it. No words needed. Sarah looked like she'd aged 5 years in 5 minutes. Her face went pale. Her hands shook. She didn't deny it. The judge didn't take custody from her completely, but I got primary rights. She was ordered to undergo therapy. Supervised visits only. After the hearing, she didn't speak to me, just walked out of the courtroom like a ghost. I should have stopped there, but I didn't. I sent the video to her former employer anonymously. They already hated her for the vendor scandal. Now, they had more reason to blacklist her. It spread. She couldn't even get a job at a local grocery store. Then I wrote an anonymous post on a local forum, laying everything out. No names, but enough details that people knew who I was talking about. The next time she went to a school event, the other parents wouldn't look at her. She was ruined. I did that. And for a while, it felt good. But revenge has a cost. My son started getting in trouble at school. Lying. Sneaking out. When I sat him down, he looked me straight in the eye and said, "I'm just doing what you do." I asked him what he meant. "You lie. You spy. You ruin people." It hit me like a punch to the stomach. All the bitterness I thought I'd buried, it had spilled out. Into my parenting. Into my home. Into him. I wasn't the good guy anymore. Maybe I never was. I went back to therapy. Told the truth this time. About the camera. The revenge. The emails. The forum post. The drinking. The therapist didn't judge. Just wrote something on her pad and said, "You're angry. But you've made choices, too. You either carry it, or you burn it." I nodded, but I didn't know which I was doing. One night, Sarah showed up at my door. She looked different, calmer. Tired. "I know it was you," she said. "The forum post. The video leak. All of it." I didn't deny it. She nodded. "You got what you wanted. You won. But just so you know, the kids will remember how both of us acted. Not just me." She walked away. And she was right. Years passed. The kids grew older. They asked harder questions. I answered as honestly as I could about their mom, about me, about all of it. I never remarried. Dated here and there. Nothing stuck. Sarah eventually got a job in another city. She moved. Visits became rare. The kids saw her as a warning, not a mother. And me? I still think about the moment I played our wedding song at that restaurant. The wine spill. The look on her face. It was satisfying. But that satisfaction didn't last. What stayed was the loneliness. The revenge was clean. Precise. But in the end, fire always burns the one holding the match.